My thoughts are the same as when I first heard the news, and I completely agree with Si. If they'd have just presented Miles with a kazoo, it would all have been fine.
No, yeah, he's getting the lingo and the handshakes and stuff. He's getting there. My guy.
Also, David Moyes sponsors several puffins. And maybe that's it as well.
He's always loved a puffin.
See, when you were going to suggest the save, I thought like national service. This isn't going to be a policy Tony's going to be on board with. Militaristic.
Yeah.
But maybe Tony's all for it.
I've got 6 months to change my politics, so it's fine.
I just hate it in podcasts that are kind of like released without editing when you got someone hacking away in the back.
Look, that dog was loud. And I couldn't.
I mean,
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the FM show. I am your host Tony Jameson, joined as always by RDF Tactics aka Arron Falloon, the one and only Maggio. And today we welcome special returning guest, FM Llama. Llama, I'm going to come to you first of all because you're the guest. Then I'll say hello to the other boys. Llama, how are you, my friend? Are you well?
Absolutely very well. I'd give it a solid 8.6 out of 10 this evening. Delighted to be here.
8.6, you're staying on, mate. You are staying on. You're not getting subbed off at all. And with a big green face as well. I like that. Really smiley. So, loving it. Arron, speaking of smiley, how are you, fella?
Yeah, I'm a 6.6, so
maybe
I just stay on there. 6.6, looking confused out there. It's been a long day. Yeah, some expected travels as well earlier, but other than that, I mean, yeah, not much to complain about. I'm still here, still playing FM, so life still goes on.
I tell you what, man, we keep you on. You're a 6.6, but we know you can turn the game in any moment, so you're staying on.
Yeah,
you're staying on.
A key pass is there. I still got a key pass in me.
That key pass is there. And then our ball-winning midfielder, Maggio. How are you, buddy? Are you well?
I'm extremely good because I've had a weekend spending my riches sent to me by Sports Interactive.
No, he's got early doors.
The check cashed. I bought myself a Ferrari. I've bought a house and everything. Got to pay the bills.
Oh man, I've got to set my invoice in as well.
Right. I'm not too bad. I mean, I spent yesterday at the Retro Football Fair, and I'll share a wear that I bought. Look at this. 1990, I don't know what year it is. 1990 Sampdoria jumper.
Ooh, that's nice.
For the audio listeners, you are missing out on an absolute stunner there, to be honest. And I was supposed to be at the Retro Football Fair with Si this weekend as well. Unfortunately, I've been back up north. Mrs. J was on a hen do, so I had to take the kids up. We stayed over at my parents this weekend, which has been nice. I went to see women's football as well. I went to see the Sunderland versus Newcastle ladies match today. But we won't talk about that because the score did not go the way that I hoped. So moving swiftly on.
Yeah, the Arsenal women didn't have a good game yesterday neither against Chelsea, so yeah, let's not talk about that.
The football. Yeah, we don't talk about real football over here. It just gets in the way, Llama, doesn't it?
I'm actually regretting coming on here. You're talking about all the topics that nobody should be mentioning. Women's football in Football Manager, accepting checks from Sports Interactive. Good Lord.
We've brought you on as an alibi, Llama. That's what it is. So yeah, we'll mention it. I mean, Si's obviously mentioned it early doors straight away. Last week was it was a bit of a bombshell, I think, to say the least, with the delay of FM25 until March. A bit of time settled, a little bit of dust has settled. I don't know whether any of us are feeling any different from last Thursday's announcement. I know we put we had a very hastily put together podcast which we put up on the Friday, giving our initial views and our initial sort of reactions. thank you, of course, everyone who's watched it, commented. Some comments, as we expected, were very appreciative. Some comments were very constructive, and then there were some comments which Sai has responded to.
I think I realised the problem, right? So, friend of the show, and I can say this because he's friend of the show and he's been on, Musterman put out a very similar viewpoint in his own video and had lovely responses about how level-headed and how nice he was and how forgiving he was and how great. And do you know why? It's because he did a song at the start of his video. We need to do you need to do a song at the start. If we did led, do you know what? If Sports Interactive had led the news that they're delaying it with a jolly song, maybe everyone would have given it a pass.
Okay, so we're turning into football musical manager now, are we? Right. Okay, yeah, right. Llama. We mentioned our views last week, and I don't know what your view is. I've not spoken to you properly about it, but in a very high level, what was your initial thoughts, and have they changed over the last few days?
My thoughts are the same as when I first heard the news, and I completely agree with Sai. If they'd have just presented Miles with a kazoo, it would all have been fine. I think.
Do you know he used to work in the music industry?
You see,
he has a guitar, I believe, in his office.
Seriously, I mean, I think the big shock is that I was shocked, because when you look at the scale of what they were presenting, the addition of women's football in the game is the biggest expansion of the database I can remember. Mm-hmm. The move from one platform to another with the move to Unity, that's the biggest under the hood evolution I can remember. You think about how little Football Manager normally evolves from iteration to iteration. These two are absolutely seismic. So the fact that I was surprised at the length of the delay, on reflection, I think is what I'm surprised by, because it takes them a year to move from one game to the next. And normally we might get maybe the addition of an inside forward this year, or maybe there's a new training pattern that you can implement. I mean, what they were trying to implement this time was absolutely enormous. So I guess it's to their credit that they've delayed it. I guess it's to their credit that they're not putting out a game that is clearly not ready. I also think there are some incredible oddities surrounding that. A week before the delay was announced, they were taking orders for the game. They were releasing serious promotional material for the game. And so it's those bits that I find perplexing, I would say. And also the way it was announced, I think, was perhaps, just in my personal opinion, a little bit misguided. I think a 250-word press release on something that was such a big announcement, but also something that mattered to people so much. I think perhaps the written format of announcing that was perhaps not how I would have done it, even though it would have been incredibly difficult for whoever they wheeled it out in front of the camera to make that announcement in a more sort of multimedia manner.
You know what? I think that's fair. I think there's a lot of fair comments in that as well. I've had a couple of days to reflect on it, and I think I'm sort of similar to where you are, really. Like, and I said before we started recording that the SI were, as much as you know, people have kicked off, and rightfully so, people have kicked off, and you know, they were kind of damned if they did, and they were damned if they didn't, really. Like, they were damned if they released a game that wasn't ready and didn't work and was buggy and had things removed from it and was therefore incomplete. But then they were also damned by going, okay, we've ballsed up here. Like, we can't release it in the state that it is. We're going to delay it. And so they were always going to get some flack from that as well. So, Arron, I mean, I don't know, like, people have said about trying to consider whether they just skip FM25 as a game now, which I don't think they can do, or whether they end up with another update or whatever. I mean, look, it's a bit of a mess for SI to try and sort out, but like, where are you this week? Are you a bit more happy with it, or are you still a bit ragey?
I'm just so, like, when we had our last podcast, I was in the same position as Llama. It was just I was just so confused why they done the pre-order announcements and stuff like that, and then announced it. But just that announcement in general is like, I don't know, that the communication is just never right. The language, the wording, when it comes from SI, it's not just on this. It's just all the time. It just feels like it's just never right, and they're just missing. Like they can't really read the room properly. That's what it feels like. Even when they were saying like our feedback, the community's feedback, and it's like they still don't really get us. Like they read everything that we were saying. It's like, but they still really get why we was upset in the first place. So yeah, I just think the announcement work was just really botched up, and I think for some years now, that has always been a negative thing. Like whenever the new game's coming out, the way they announce things, even when they done the video, right? I remember when they done like a 45-minute video, the way they did that, they dropped the ball on that, and then just every year, the way they do the announcement is like, you could have done this a lot better. You could have done this a lot better, but this year especially is a very important year for them. I thought they would have made sure they got things right. They would, because they've done blog posts already and they've addressed this and they're aware of the way they communicate with us and they want to improve that. And it's just like, it feels like it's going backwards. It's just like, you're not actually learning, are you? And again, I think this is what adds to frustration with people as well. I don't think it's just the announcement. It's just the way it's happening as well. I think that's what really gets to people as well.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. And I think, Si, what we were looking at last week when we did the podcast, we were trying to look at this through the eyes of the consumer. Because I think we can maybe sometimes be forgiven for having our eyes as creators when we talk about the podcast, but we are conscious that, you know, there's beyond ourselves is a much wider player base, and we do try and talk as the consumers as well. And I think, you know, maybe that was the thing, because there's maybe still some people who haven't seen this release. Like they don't read social media, they don't listen to podcasts, they don't watch YouTube content. Like this is your average consumer who maybe gets the game for Christmas is now not going to get it for Christmas, and they don't know. Like that's the problem, isn't it? These are people who've got buying habits and buying routines, and that's why they've been upset, because those habits and routines and expectations, people with birthdays, Christmas is coming up, they're not going to be able to do what they normally do.
I don't know if it is your average consumer, you know. I think, okay, so, well, actually, I think last week, maybe I wasn't trying to look at it through the eyes of the average consumer. Maybe this is where I went wrong. I was trying to look at it through the eyes of what's gone wrong at Sports Interactive. So anyone who thinks I was trying to, like, you know, justify or whatever, like, or apologize or whatever for them, you know, it's not really the case. I'm just sort of like, you know, how do you get to this point? How do you find yourself in this situation? And it's not like, I will still say it's not some conspiracy that they wanted to release pre-orders to get money, because it will cost them more to refund those pre-orders with chargebacks or whatever, or paying off the retailers and the licensing and everything, than it would have done if they'd just never done it in the first place. Like, anyone who thinks that's the case, I think, and that's when I said the tinfoil hat comment, which annoyed some people, understandably, but that's like what it refers to, right? There's no way they released the pre-orders with the idea to get your money in their pocket only for them to refund it again, because that will cost them more. But I think, like, and the other thing I think is actually, and the audience of people who watch this, you guys at home, or listen to this if you're listening, or the audience of people who are very vocal on Twitter, are not the core audience now, I don't think. I think there is a much wider core audience for the game. And I was at the Retro Football Fair yesterday, and there are lots of people there who play Football Manager, but who are not engaged in the Football Manager community, right? Like the you know, the niche. This is your real hobby. This is, you know, you watch a Football Manager show, etc. Right? You talk about it on Twitter, mate. But a lot of people just play in their spare time, or they play online or whatever. You know, or they get it through Game Pass. They play it on there. Like, I spoke to a lot of people who say they play on console. Then they've started on console. Mm-hmm. And like, if you spoke to the Football Manager community, the Reddit, the Twitter, you would think no one is playing on console. You would think everyone is on PC. That is not the case. There is a very, very big cohort of people playing on console who are casually playing and not engaging in the wider discussion around the game. And I think, you know, and there was like a knowledge that the game had been delayed. People saying, oh, it's a shame it's been delayed. But there wasn't like anger, you know, it's just, you know, to them, it's another video game that's been delayed. Assassin's Creed been delayed, you know, probably GTA's been delayed. Everything gets delayed. So it's like, I mean, people, I would have thought people would be more used to delays in a post-COVID era as well. So I wonder whether, you know, if a lot of this is like, and maybe Sports Interactive have factored this in. A lot of this is like, we're going to annoy a real core, but they'll still buy the game. Maybe they won't. A lot of people saying they're not. I think
I get that
they
every
will.
year, man. I get that
I think they
it's
will.
The same.
Maybe
I'm
they'll
not
be
buying
well.
it. It's the same. I'm not buying it. Now it's different,
Right?
And it's
They
got a
do
little
say
bit of
it.
delay. I'm not buying it because it's a delay.
I will be the first to say. So before anyone calls me Sports Interactive Maggio, back in 2014, there was a video game on the PlayStation Vita called PlayStation Football Manager Classic 2014, right? And it came out on iOS back in 2013 when the other versions come out, and it was delayed, and it came out in April 11th, 2014, which is later than the next one is coming out for this, right? April 11th, 2014. Now, most people didn't play it because that's why they never released another Vita version. A, because not enough people owned a Vita, and then B, because not enough people wanted to play Football Manager on a Vita. And I'm pretty sure low sales is why they never released another. And it came out 2 weeks before the end of the season, or a month before the end of the season. So basically, all the data was out of date by the time it was out. I was furious because it was late. They didn't do a data update to it. It was buggy. I think I spoke to you before about how I played a Portsmouth season when we were back. I think we were Championship. No, we were League 2 that year, and I played 46 games. And the two teams that got promoted played 48 games. I'm like, just extra games? Where these come from? That's the level of buggy it was. That's to me, that's a fundamental core issue with your game. If the teams are playing the wrong number of league games in a season, you've got a real problem in a relatively normal league. It's not like it's like the Bolivian third division of teams. It's League 2. Some people will say that's not proper football, but I still believe it is. So yeah, and I was furious, and I was on the foot, and I was furious also because I was sending him the bugs and uploading it. It was more difficult than just uploading my save file because I had to get it off the PlayStation Vita onto the PC, which was a monumental task in itself. And I would send them these files and say, "We'll get back to you. We'll get back to you." They never got back to me, and every couple of weeks I'd message and say, "Hey, any update on the bug?" No, and then eventually it was like, "We're ending support for this game." In September, I think it was, or October, right? 3-4 months. And they were like, this is 2014. This is last year's game. We're on this year's game. And I'm like, yeah, it's not last year's game though, is it? You only released it 3-4 months ago. And it's like, yeah, but it didn't sell enough. Mm-hmm. So after that, I did boycott the game. I didn't buy another game. I got a bit angry. I got myself banned from the forums for a month or something. That's another thing. A lot of people said, "Oh, if they have to be nice, otherwise they don't get invited to Sports Interactive or whatever. They got to stay in their good books." A lot of us have been very critical.
I've been banned on the forum as well.
Yeah, right. It's a rite of passage in a way. You have to get banned on the forums at some point. Don't be abusive to Sports Interactive. Please don't be abusive to Sports Interactive.
Before we move on to the main part of the episode, I was going to say that as well. There is a small section. I'm going to say of us because last year and the year before, I was heavily involved in the forum. There is that small section of us who I would say we're loyal as well because we've been customers for a very long time, and I think a lot of it as well. We just feel like they're just taking something away from us, and a lot of us have spent a lot of time, a lot of our free time, sending in bugs and reports and stuff like that. And again, last year with them communicating and the roadmap sort of stuff, we was looking forward to that because then now we can see. When we're reporting stuff in the forum, we can see they're working on it. And then they can say, oh, this is the roadmap for this update and this is what's going to be fixed. That was what was supposed to happen. And it didn't happen. And then, so when a lot of these people are making comments, maybe I've got a little bit of sympathy for them, a little bit of understanding for them and why they're raging a little bit. But yeah, for other people, it's a bit just chill out a little bit.
Okay. Well, the advice I would give on the back of that, sorry, Tony, the advice I would give on the back of that is it doesn't get you anywhere and you come back to the game eventually anyway. All you do is find yourself very angry and without Football Manager for a few years.
That's the point, right? So let's sort of lock this off at this point, right? That's the point. I was trying to articulate it last week that getting angry and kicking off is not going to bring the game back any quicker, right? Okay, it's not going to work. However, Llama, what we have now, right, is we have an unexpected opportunity, okay? Let's look at the positives from this, okay? It might not feel like there is many positives, but there is, right? FM25 I think FM24 is pretty good. I've really enjoyed playing FM24. We've now got 6 more months to play this game. Okay? So, I think we're in a good spot to try a new save. Yeah?
And you're 100% agree with you, absolutely.
And you're here to sell us a whole load of ideas because that's your thing, right?
Well, yeah, what I'd like to think one of my things, but no, let's be honest.
Just the one.
of it.
That's it.
Yeah,
I have
just
one.
a save machine.
I have one trick.
Can you do them in an A to Z format as well, please?
I'm literally just a magic 8-ball.
Yeah. I mean, if we were to look for a collection of save ideas from, say, A to Z, I mean, where could we find something like that?
Well, that's a nice segue because, I do release a lot of videos on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel that I run with some other people called The Manager's Seat, and I contribute a lot of save idea videos. And the reason why that came about is actually because of my brother. You know, if you have siblings of your own in adulthood, you know that you don't see each other as much as when you were kids. But me and my brother have this shared experience from childhood, which was, lying on the floor, both with the same PC, passing the mouse from one person to the other. He's managing Blackburn Rovers, I'm managing Coventry City, and we have this shared experience. So when we meet up again, I'll say, you've got a game of FM on the go. In fact, in our family, we still call it Champ Man. So, got a game of Champ Man. It never leaves us. Got a game of Champ Man on the go. And he would always say, nah. I bought it, I loaded it up, but there's no one to be. And I'm like, what do you mean? There is no one to be. There are literally thousands. No, it's just none of them really interest me. I started a save and I quit it. And so my idea of kind of making save idea videos is all based around, I can't bear it when people want a game of Football Manager and they're not starting one because they can't think of who to be. That, real life getting in the way, or, spending more time with your family, going out and touching grass. Those should be the reasons people are not playing Football Manager, not because they can't think of a club to be. So I like to try and bring people save ideas. And, lots of people make save ideas, and some of them I roll my eyes at, because it's like, have you ever thought about managing Chelsea? They've got a new manager and loads of new players. Of course we've thought about managing Chelsea. What's the point in creating a video where you're suggesting the obvious? All these people now going, I can't wait to do my FM25 save ideas video. But now that Bordeaux are in tier 4, everybody knows Bordeaux are in tier 4. What a lot of people don't know is you can't play in France's tier 4. You can load it up, but you can't select a team in it. So you have to get a database anyway. So I like to just come up with save ideas that maybe people hadn't thought of. And if they're struggling for a game, they think, do you know what? I'm going to fire it up. Give it a go.
How much time do you think you put in actually researching and finding these saves? Because as well as like with your videos, it's not just like you're just finding a story like, just be this team. Like you're really finding the story and breaking it down for people as well. And you're finding stories from left, right, and centre. I genuinely don't know how you do it. So how much time do you actually think you've put into finding these unique saves?
Well, so first of all, I don't believe there's a lot of point suggesting saves that don't have a story, that don't have a narrative. If people are just looking for, if they know they want to manage somebody in England's championship, they just load it up, have a little look at the clubs and go, I'll pick the team who are predicted to finish 16th. Brilliant. You're in. I don't think there's any point suggesting save ideas to people who are struggling to invest in a save, unless there is that narrative, that story, that soul behind it. And so, how long do I spend doing it? I cheat, essentially. In that I do this for fun. I don't just do it to create save ideas videos. So I read a lot about continental football. I listen to podcasts that are about continental football. And through that, you hear stories, and I think, do you know what? I could include that in a save ideas video. I'll be reading like an article in World Soccer magazine. I think, I didn't know that about them. That's a save ideas video. And I also have help. So there is a guy called Simon Thornley who him and I message on a regular basis. I've just read about this club. They'd be great in a Save Ideas videos. And he helps me with scripts and comes up with a lot of ideas. And he's like a fellow, I was going to say enthusiast. I think I mean football nerd. Really. And Arron, I do have one advantage when it comes to Save Ideas that you don't, of course.
What's that?
I'm incredibly old. So I kind of, you build up these ideas over a period of time. So, if people were going to suggest Bordeaux as an FM24.5 Save idea, that I can present a narrative for that because, this is the club of Sylvain Wiltord, Christophe Dugarry, Zinedine Zidane. This was a club that was triumphing in Ligue 1. This is one of the big clubs in French history. I remember them in the 90s being like a real big player. Their stadium was used at France 98. And now, they're tumbled down and been demoted, really, rather than tumbled down to the 4th tier. There's your storyline. What I don't like is videos that are like, Andy Carroll's playing for him. Genius. Sign me up then. I've always wanted to manage Andy Carroll.
All right, so scratch that one, Si. That's off the table. We're not doing that one. So are you right, before we get into the nuts and bolts of the Save Ideas, Si, are you a bit like me? Are you at the point now where you think, I think it is time to go for something new? Because Llama gave me Larissa for Greece.
But that's a football club, by the way, not a disease.
Sorry, it
Sounds like a side dish to me.
Yeah, he gave me Larissa, and I had to do a lot of explaining. But yeah, like I enjoyed the Build a Nation, but I think it's got to the point where I'm like, we probably can't go much further than we are. So I'm now ready to do something new and exciting. I took this as a great opportunity to go, right, cool, let's start something brand new. Si, are you at that point as well? Are you wanting something new, or are you happy in Bilbao still?
I'm happy in Bilbao still, but I don't know. The trouble with the Bilbao one is that in any season it could end.
Yeah.
It's a tough one because I need that successful season, and I don't know what season that's like. If you do a journeyman, you can see the progression, right? You can see yourself moving up. Eventually you reach the Premier League or Liga or whatever league you'd like to be in, La Liga. Whereas with Bilbao, I'm always a top 8 team in La Liga or a top 5 team in La Liga, right? And it's just a case of, right, this season, have I got the edge over Barcelona, Real Madrid? Am I going to get a bit of luck in the Champions League? And then it'll get like March time and it falls apart. And it's like, right, okay, that means it's one more season. I guess I'm not, and I am. I am actually ready with another save in a way, but I don't know until again, this has bought me time in a way because I actually wanted to try the other idea out. So I think I can stick with Bilbao for as long as it goes because the other one's a short one. The other one's a collection of short ones. Actually, it's a collection of short saves, which Arron will love. He loves his little short saves, very short saves. Load it up. Set the tactic, won a couple of games, but yeah. So I think I'm into 2030 with Bilbao now or something. So I've actually gone longer than I expected, which it's kind of annoying because I've been successful enough that I've managed to continue it, and not successful enough that I've ended it. I've watched some of the World Cup guys who went to the World Cup with Arron have also been doing Bilbao, and they have Athletic Club. We should call them Athletic Club. Let's call them by their proper name, otherwise the Basques will be furious. So I think I need it could end at any time. The wonder kid, I got to hope for good kids to come through in the academy, and I've got them, and they take a bit of time to develop, and because I've only got a few, I don't know if they're gonna. I've had some, and I thought he's gonna turn out to be amazing, and they didn't. And then some, I'm like, I didn't look at them like they just came in the academy, and I just stick them in the reserves. 3 years later, I look at them, I'm like, huh? Where did you come from? Well, I've got. It looks like I've suddenly got a bonus left back I didn't know about. Because there is 3 reserve teams at Bilbao, which is very, certainly complicates matters, and it doesn't mean a lot of who's that? I've never seen that player before. But yeah, it's. I think I've got a bit of time, but between now and March, almost certainly I'll be done with the Bilbao save somewhere around Christmas time, I'd imagine.
Right. That's what we need to know, Llama. He's in. He wants something new. Right, okay, so I'm wanting something new. Si wants something new. Aaron's always twitching for something new. Llama, what have you got for us? Because you've got 3 very, very different play styles here as well, and I'm sure you've got something up your sleeves.
Well, I hope so. It's a bit of a bust if I've just got nothing, isn't it?
Is it Bordeaux for us all?
Yeah. No, so what I was
Open
thinking
the
was a journeyman where you only manage clubs that Andy Carroll has... No. Actually, mate, let me make a note of that. That's not my worst idea.
I was going to say.
So, I've just released the A to Z of saves, and some people delighted as soon as they announced the delay of FM25. They couldn't wait to get on that video quick enough to say, well, this video aged like milk, didn't it? As if... It's not the game that's been delayed. It's like every club I'd mentioned had dissolved or was no longer in the game. I mean, I hate to point out to people,
no longer relevant.
Yeah, these clubs are still playable.
I pasted that comment on every video because I had about 10 of those on every one of my videos. It was about FM25. This video aged like milk. I'm like, no, it's still relevant. You just move it 6 months.
I mean, let's not beat around the bush. We released a podcast at 12 o'clock. Then SI released a statement at 3. That's when things age like milk.
Yeah.
Sorry, Llama. Back into you.
Well, so I'll give you a few of my highlights from the A to Z video. I mean, I'd still like people to go and watch it, perhaps, over on the Manager's Seat on YouTube. But let me give you a few of my absolute highlights, which unfortunately I've just realised the highlights I'm going to present are some of the hardest clubs to pronounce from the entire video, so you're going to have to forgive me, okay? This first one, I don't know whether this might be up Arron's street, okay? Because Arron always likes, a little twist on his save. I've seen him do attributeless. I've seen him do youth only and things. Now, we all know about the sort of the Red Bull group of clubs. You've got, obviously, Leipzig, perhaps their flagship. You've got Red Bulls in New York. You've got them in Brazil, Bragantino. Obviously, you've got Salzburg as well. They've just added their most recent addition to the stable in Japan in their 3rd division. A team which is called, and I'm just going to take a run up at this and just say it fast, Omiya Adija, they are called. So they were added in August, and you'll find them in J3, and of course... The J-League was added to Football Manager 4 FM24, and there was an initial flurry of people excited to play it, but lots of people went for the J1 clubs. Maybe you start off in J3 with Omiya, who have got the backing of Red Bull, and you see whether you can take them to the top of the Japanese and maybe even the continental game. I think that would be, a save to get your teeth into between now and March.
Nice.
I like that.
I haven't managed in the Japanese league at all this year, and I remember being excited. I had this moment. I was like, "Oh yes, new league," and I was like, "I'm not actually gonna play it." But this could be an opportunity. But I'm surprised. I tend to just when I'm playing Football Manager, I've just got a spare time. I tend to just load it up, start a new save, and just go somewhere I've never been before. But for some odd reason, just never the J League. Some odd reason, no. USA, never again. I've done it once, never making that mistake again. never making that mistake again.
Yeah, how many hours was your MLS save?
Oh man, just one evening is just instant regret.
Okay, Arron doing Red Bull in Japan. I like that because J3, I think it was what the space was on when they were announcing the J League. J3 is a tough league to get out of as well with crazy restrictions. So good luck with that one, Arron. I think, and you know what, I think he's the only one who could do it as well. So I love that.
Are there connections with the other Red Bull teams?
Well, they're in their infancy, so the deal was only signed in August, and I don't know whether they're going to go through a rebrand to be called Red Bull or not.
Because Leeds aren't, are they?
No, but that's like a minority ownership, and I'm led to believe that with Omiya Adija, I've said it again, it's like a full takeover, I think. So if there's not some kind of link-ups, you'd be surprised as to why Red Bull have purchased them.
Yeah, well, in the first place, yeah.
I mean, Arron could literally do the full Red Bull challenge, couldn't he? He could go from Japan, he could go across to Brazil, he could go to MLS again. Yeah. Then he can come back to Austria, finish in Germany, and he's away.
I always thought about that, but how would you move clubs? Like, you would have to just sit there and wait for someone to be sacked from one of the Red Bull clubs. Yeah, I've always wanted to do something like that, but I thought oh yeah, but that transition might not actually just be easy. Just to, yeah, time to go to Salzburg now. So, yeah, that one is big question mark.
Okay, so big question marks for Arron. Any question marks for Sai, Llama?
Okay, so Sai likes the stories. I mean, I've got one for you, Tony, as well, but we'll do Sai first. And God, this one's even harder to pronounce. Okay, so Sai's a man of the world. Sai's cultured. Sai is, he's well travelled. He's a romantic, and I really like the idea of managing a club that you've been to in real life. Perhaps not like the one you support. Sai might have been to Fratton Park to watch Portsmouth play. Doesn't need me to suggest you could manage Pompey. But over the summer, I was, doing a little bit of travelling, and whenever I'm away abroad, I like to go and try and go to a stadium or go to a game if possible. And during this summer, I went to the most breathtaking stadium that I've ever been to. If you ever see those Twitter threads about the world's most beautiful stadiums, it's always in there. Or my middle son's got a book about, the world's most awe-inspiring football stadiums, and it's in there. And it's a team in Iceland who are called IBV, or we'll give it a go, Íþróttabandalag Vestmannaeyja, which is an island off the south coast of Iceland. So we had to take like a 45-minute ferry journey just to get there. And if you typed it into a popular search engine, you'd recognise their stadium instantly. It's kind of, it's at the bottom of a huge cliff face. This is the island with like one of the biggest puffin colonies in the world. They are bizarrely the club where David Moyes played his youth football. And I've really tried to research why David Moyes was on the remote Icelandic island of Vestmannaeyja, and I can't find out. If David is listening, or any friends or family, I'd love them to drop it into the comments. It's also the club that had players like Pompey legend Herman Hreiðarsson playing for them.
And
as
two
well.
of them. There's two of them. There's a second one, Llama.
There's a second... Goodney Bird.
Actually, you said the other one for Pompey in the video, but you didn't say for Herman Hreiðarsson.
Oh, who's the other one? You're gonna have to pronounce.
I think I've seen it. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it right now.
It's
Goalkeeper,
he's played for a lot of Premier League teams.
Goalkeeper.
You like a quiz? Go on, guess the player.
Yeah.
I got to check. I'm right now.
Goalkeeper is a.
Oh, Yushi.
Goalkeeper. Nope.
Oh no.
That's my
Also
video. I
played
First
in
name as a
India,
surname.
if I'm correct.
He's
He
got
also
first
played
name
in
as a
India.
surname.
Oh, of
You don't
course,
need to give me a
sorry.
surname.
Yeah, David James, of course,
Yeah.
Pompey legend. I was trying to think of an Icelandic player there. And of course, David James went over there, and I think he just went to work on his art, didn't he? To sort of like study the vistas and the landscapes. But Sai,
Couple of good Mario Kart tracks out there for him. You can play.
that's it. Sai, I thought, might quite appreciate, that rugged romanticism of this semi-professional Icelandic club that, he could try and win a European trophy with.
I like the idea. It's good for Christmas too, right? Like, for a winter break save.
Absolutely, for a winter break save, play in a summer league.
And I could get that is true. Yeah. But we'll get David James in. It's probably easier to do a start date as well. I don't know, or do I have to get 2 years of data updates for them?
If you're playing with the base game FM24, you'll find them in the Icelandic second division because they were relegated last season. In real life, they've just actually won the Icelandic second division. So for FM25, they'll actually be back in the top flight. But it's a beautiful island. It's just one for those people that like to daydream whilst they're playing. It's just, it's just a fabulous destination. Bizarrely, for an Icelandic island, it's got great ice cream as well. Bizarre.
So if you're wondering why David Moyes had a spell there, it is because a man called Ollie Johnson used to work there. Obviously, used to work for the IBV, and he would take a group of players from Glasgow for a few days every year to train and play against amateur sides. So I guess that's why David Moyes got his big move to IBV at the age of 15.
Yeah.
Also, David Moyes sponsors several puffins, and maybe that's it as well.
He's always loved a puffin.
Curious that their notable players are almost all Icelandic except for David James, David Moyes, a guy from the Faroes, and 3 Angolans. I wonder whether this is just a little raid on Angola at some point.
I mean, it was unlikely to be several Brazilian wonder kids, wasn't it?
Well, it seemed to have gone for
Rivaldo
Angolian
played
wonder
there.
kids.
They've also got a section, Tony. You'll love this. They've also got a section on the Bliss Spartans website.
Have they?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on over here, but a defender returns to Bliss Spartan after a spell abroad, so he's gone over there as
There's
well.
another one there. It's the club that links us. This should be the FM show's official club, shouldn't it? Has it got any links to Arsenal here, Aaron?
It is a fabulous club, though. So we actually, we got off the ferry, and the ground is just 2 minutes from the ferry port. So we pulled up, and there was loads of youth training going on all the artificial pitches, and we thought, should we just see if we can kind of like get a bit close to the stadium, maybe pitch side. So we walked down there. They don't lock the place up, so we were able to walk into the tunnel, the changing rooms. My kids found a football outside of the change room, so they went on the pitch and played. Nobody bats an eyelid. It's just fabulous. And then when we went off to see some puffins, then we drove back in the evening, and the first team were out there training. And it just must be an amazing place to train.
Wow.
If you don't want to buy a ticket, you can just sit on the mountain. On the
Absolutely,
side.
you can.
It's a bit like Henman's Hill, Horideson's Mountain.
Mount Helmond. Okay, right. I think we're all off to Iceland, Llama. I think job's done. It says all. Just on the off chance, is there anything for me? Because again, that I'm one who likes a bit of a challenge with teams that he can't pronounce.
Well, yeah, I have one for you, but you will be able to pronounce them. The reason I thought they were great for you is because they have a particular transfer stipulation that I thought would be perfect for you. Because you like the grind, don't you? You're a bit like me. You like it when you're never happiest when you're deep in a pit of misery from a save that just feels like it's impossible. So... And you're also, from your time in Indonesia, you quite like an Asian save as well. So I've got 2 clubs in Asia that both have the same transfer policy. So you've got Young Lions from Singapore, who were mentioned in the video. Their transfer policy is the same as a K-League side called, brace yourselves, Gimcheon Sangmu, who are currently mounting a bit of an unexpected tilt at the K1 title in Korea. And their transfer policy that they have is that they are only predominantly allowed to sign players who are completing their national service. So it means that they're only allowed to sign under 23 players. They loan in a lot of players from the big clubs for whom it's become time for them to complete their national service. You'll remember famously players like Son at Tottenham had to try and shoehorn a reduced national service into the summer recess of the Premier League season. But if you're playing in the K-League, it's quite common for you to do your national service by playing for Gimcheon Sangmu, and the same in Singapore for the Young Lions. The Young Lions are interesting because as well as Singapore under-23 players, they're allowed to sign 3 foreigners as well to try and nationalise them so that they can play for Singapore. So you've got like a little bit more scope to bring in signings. But Young Lions, they've never won a trophy in Singapore football. Tony Jameson could be the man to lead a team of people completing their national service to the national title.
I can see. You know what? I can see it.
I can see it
now. Yeah.
Tony Jameson, national service.
Yeah.
Or Tony Jameson serving a nation.
See, when you were going to suggest the save, I thought like national service. This isn't going to be a policy Tony's going to be on board with. Militaristic.
Yeah.
But maybe Tony's all for it.
I've got 6 months to change my politics, so it's fine.
You can become Tony the Tory. That's it.
Building a nation, building a new nation now, building an army.
Well, of course, we'll know from the UK that national service also includes volunteering for the NHS. So.
Which is where Theme Hospital comes in. So let's get that on the go. I like that. And you know what? Okay, that's good. Asia's fun. Asia is fun. It's an underutilized market, I think.
And what better time to go and explore places you've not been before than this 6-month extension to FM24.
Exactly. Where else is off the beaten path then, Llama? If for example, because say for example, our listeners that are listening going, I don't fancy J3, I don't really fancy Korea, and Iceland's out. Like, what else you got?
So a little bit more off the beaten path. That's not hugely off the beaten path, but I've never done Brazil, and every time FM comes out, I think I'm going to do Brazil this time. And if you've ever been tempted, this might be the time to do it if you can get an updated database that has the promotions and relegations in. Because Santos have been relegated for the first time in their history down to Tier 2. This is a club who are from a little port just south of Sao Paulo, I think it is. And they're not a big club, and it's not a big region by population, but they've always punched significantly above their weight because of the calibre of youth players that they produce. Pele, obviously, Robinho, Neymar, of course, Rodrigo. And, I mean, it could be a great club to do a youth-only save with and try and rely just on your youth intakes to take them back to the top of Brazilian football. And again, I could see that save lasting you for months if you wanted something to get you through to March.
Yeah, that 72 game league season, really.
My God,
It's like an
horrible.
NBA fixture list, isn't it? It's horrid.
Horrible. Yeah, I've done a couple. It's fun though. That's the only thing. It is fun. The only thing about the Brazilian league, it's not so much the Brazilian league. It's the stuff before it. It's like, so you got the state championship thing, and sometimes that's the bit. And it's surprising because it comes at the start as well. It's like it's not really challenging, and it's that bit is really difficult for me to get invested in because sometimes you are just walking over teams like 7-0, 8-0 because you are playing against teams that are like 3-4 divisions below you.
But
Obviously,
that's when you could do all your best youth development, isn't it?
Yeah, I was
Really
going to say
flood
with Sao
those.
Paulo, these games might be very useful actually because then you can actually play a lot of these youngsters as well. But yeah, Brazilian League is something to try out. It really is something to try out. It's very entertaining. And you've got, every time you press and continue, it feels like you've got to play a match. That's the only thing. There are so many matches. I think there's a couple of weeks, there was like 3 matches in the week.
There you go. A season could
as in,
last
like,
you a
it'll
whole
be like-
stream, Arron.
So I'm talking about the 5-day weeks. I'm talking about like the match. One time I had like a match on a Monday, then it was Wednesday, then a Saturday. I'm like, what is going on? And then again, back on the next week, Monday, I'm like, yeah, this is insane. This is
Man,
insane.
your training schedules must be brutal at that point. Like, surely it's
Mate,
just
I had
like
Flamengo.
days off,
I had
days
Flamengo
off.
6 times in a row because of the cups and so I had Flamengo in the cup, then in the league, then in the their version of the Champions League. But obviously we had to play the second legs as well of those cup games. I was like, I literally played them 6 times in a row. They're the best team in Brazil as well. I lost the first one 4-1 and I just quit the game. That was it for me. I lost the first one. I'm not going through this 6 times, and I'm sorry. That's it.
Si, people have suggested Brazil second division to me, Si. I'm not having it. I'm not having it.
Where would you like? Would you like? I mean, I'm a man in Serie C in Italy. I'm just like, if I ever look for a story, I go to Serie C because there's always something. Serie C.
Llama's face
Llama's
seems to
got one.
suggest there's something
Go
in
on.
Serie C. Yeah.
I've got.
Well, so if we move away from shamelessly plugging my own A to Z of Save Ideas video, I've come up with some other ones for people if they just want something really fun. They perhaps don't want the depth of story. They just want like a really just like a fun save, a club to guide back to the big time, maybe a bit of a challenge for them. And one of them was looking at some of those Serie C clubs. You've got a couple of real hard luck stories down there, like Crotone and Benevento have both bounced from Serie A to Serie C at an alarming speed, and taking them back up again, especially Crotone, who suffered consecutive relegations from Serie A down to Serie C. That'd be a nice little challenge. Or Benevento, I think the Little Witches, they're nicknamed, beautiful sort of red and yellow kits. They could be nice. But the one I really like in Serie C might be Foggia, who is one more for the Tony Jameson.
Zenit Zeman, isn't it?
The Zenit Zeman,
yeah.
but it kind of rekindles memories of the 90s with James Richardson sat outside a cafe in Turin sipping an espresso. And, that period under Zenit Zeman, which I think his brand of football was known as, was it Zemanlandia?
Didn't he manage them like 4 times or something in his career as well?
He actually went back to manage them very, very recently.
Recently,
you know,
yeah,
he's into his
very
70s.
recent.
And his style of play was all around sort of picking 13 strikers and no goalkeepers and just really kind of like really attacking. And maybe you could like have an added stipulation in that you try to recreate Zeman's kind of brand of football with Foggia, taking them back to the top division. I think I could be wrong here, but was it Foggia that had Brian Roy playing for them in the 90s before he moved to Nottingham Forest? So maybe you could try and bring in Dutch players as well. I can hear the clatter of keys as people are quickly just researching.
Yeah, that's me. I'm looking at
Completely
this.
made up fact or not. You got to remember, there's like 44 years of knowledge rattling around in there. Not all of it's true.
I'm just looking at Zeman's history and
you had me at Foggia. Yeah, you had me at Foggia.
But I mean, Sai's probably got other third-tier Italian clubs that you could suggest. I know Catania.
Would you like one? Would you like a real Romeo and Juliet one?
Come on, hit us.
Right. So in Veneto, which is where Venice is, there is another city that's a little bit further south, also on the coast. And if you follow like Venice is like a series of islands, and the islands sort of cool down. And at the bottom, there's another town called Chioggia, right? Chioggia. And in Chioggia, there is a team that has just got promoted. This team has been around since 1971, sort of. So the team is Union Clodiense Chioggia. Okay, it's hard to pronounce if you want your hard to pronounce. Clodiense Chioggia. So and it's called Union Clodiense Chioggia because it was 2 rival teams that merged in 2011. In fact, when it was first founded, it was 2 rival teams that merged, and then they later merged with another rival team. So now their badge is on one side is the badge of one team, and the other side is the badge of the other team, a seahorse and a lion, and they're like facing each other. But because of very natural in Italian football financial difficulties and chance of non-existence, they merged with their rival team in 2011. And then since then they won promotion back to Serie D, and then just this year they won one of the Serie D groups. They're back in Serie C, so they are, a real like. And their stadium, right? So much like the Icelandic stadium, the stadium is on its own little island in this little peninsula of Venetian islands. So yes, if you want a nice little Romeo and Juliet story that ends maybe rather more happily than the real one, Union Clodiense Chioggia. But like Llama said, I need to call you like Palmer said. Like Llama said, I was thinking of teams that got relegated down and back up again in Italy. But they're like Pescara is another one that's like gone down. There's a few of them down there in Serie C that are like they were previously all the way up in the top divisions. There are also brand new teams like AC Milan have a team which is called Milan Futuro. Which is like their B team. So if you want to sort of try it out with like a reserve team, they are also in Serie C this year. They replaced who did they replace? They replaced Ancona, who went bankrupt.
Wow, money issue.
Okay. Again, see, Italy always speaks to me. You start talking about Asia, that's fun. Then you throw 90s Italy at me, Llama, and it's like, oh, come on. You're speaking my language here. I want to get your thoughts on one thing, though, before we go to your next idea. Okay, because I've been cogitating myself, and I wonder, have I got time, knowing how I like to play the game, have I got time to do something ridiculous, Llama? Have I got time to attempt the Pentagon challenge?
No.
No, good. Okay, moving swiftly on.
You're going to do it, though, aren't you?
It sounds like something the sort of thing that I could do.
Oh my god! And before we pressed record, he said, "Yeah, what do you think about it?" So I'm not going to talk about it. No, I'm not going to talk about it. Press record. No, you're not going to do it.
No, I think Pentagon is a fabulous challenge. In fact, I'm going to mention Pentagons later. I think you've got to be a certain type of player to pull off a Pentagon. Not the type of player who has spent a lot of time in the lower leagues and maybe not progressing out of those leagues, Yeah. You are the kind of manager that when you're bottom at Christmas, you call in and who doesn't save the club, who still gets them relegated anyway. But you're that kind of manager. With the Pentagon, it's about, winning those elite titles. No, is the answer.
Okay.
But I look forward to watching it. I really do. Because with your stream saves, Tony, I don't think anybody ever tunes in the expectation that you will pull off any of these challenges. It's not about the destination with you. It is fully about the journey.
Yeah, we'll do it one day. We'll trick everyone one day, and something will happen. I'll be sitting there going, "Did you just see him win that thing?" Like, no, surely not. Like, check his keyboard. Is he definitely doing it?
Well, again, I'd probably say no.
For anyone who's not attempted a Pentagon challenge, where does the don't know where does the challenge come in, but where does first we probably ought to explain. Not everyone
Explain
knows
what the Pentagon challenge is. Yeah.
So the Pentagon challenge is, correct me if I'm wrong, winning each of the Champions Leagues in each, or the Champions League's equivalents in each continent that it's possible to.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
So
the five continental.
Copa
titles,
Sudamericana or Copa Libertadores. I don't remember which one's the better one.
Libertadores,
is the better one, right?
Yeah, Libertadores.
What's the North American one called? The Gold Cup.
CONCACAF Champions League.
CONCACAF
Gold Cup is for
Championship.
nations, I think.
The Gold Cup's the national one, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got the Asian Champions League, the European Champions League, and the Oceanic the Oceanic Champions
AFC,
League.
is it?
AFC is the
Yeah.
African, isn't it?
No, you can't do Africa.
Is-
Now, Africa you can, because
Yes,
you could
'cause
manage
you
a
could
South
start
African
there.
club.
Oh, you
And
can.
people
So
are
we've got to
begging for New Zealand to be added to Football Manager, because obviously Australian clubs take part in the Asian Champions League because they've moved confederations, which is why people are so hungry for New Zealand to be included, or,
So they want
other
a
Oceania nations are available.
Hexagon challenge.
That's it.
Hexagon challenge. I don't know what it's. Hexagon challenge.
So you have to start unemployed. The hardcore, the way that I do it clearly, would be with no coaching badges as well. So
In which country? Where would you start?
So again, to make it difficult, you've got to start in Africa. Like to start and then work your way.
Well, does that
out
make it
and
difficult? Or does that
round.
make it easier? Because I'd imagine, once you've been Barcelona manager,
I guess
you're not going to get a job at.
I guess with
Sundown.
no reputation and no manager attributes, you're not getting a job at Barcelona.
No, you see, I think the challenge, Tony, is to start off unemployed, like you say, with no coaching badges or experience. And you start your Pentagon at Curzon Ashton in Tier 6. So you've probably got about 15, 20 years of gameplay before you even get to a club where you could
To the
win
Football
one of the
League.
Champions League. Yes.
So is jumping between the continents the hard bit, because you've got to time the load, because you've got to load leagues and deload leagues, right?
Yeah.
At the right point of the season.
So yeah, jumping from team to team is the bit that I think if I was to commit to something like this, having learned from my experience on the British Steel last year, which again I've got an idea for next year as well, the jumping would be the bit that I struggle with, because I get attached to teams, and I need to maybe this is my thing. I have to learn to just let go of stuff and be like, right, they're not going to win. Move on. Who's next? Right, they've dropped down. Jump there. Is that how I progress quickly? I
think
it's
you've got
the
to
exact
jump in a
opposite
stage like that.
of Build a Nation, where I've stayed at one club for 17 years. Am I now sort of like hot potatoing it? But yeah, jumping around from nation to nation and continent to continent.
Well, if you do achieve it, Tony, and hats off to you if you do.
I won't, clearly, let's be honest.
I've got an idea later when we discuss some challenging save ideas to make a Pentagon a bit more challenging. But we're meant to be in the fun section, so I'll reveal that later.
Yeah, go back. Yeah. I got carried away from myself, right? Sorry, I am listening. Llama, what have you brought to the table rather than what a stupidity have I concocted?
Well, again, so if we're going for lighter saves, like a fallen giant like a Foggia, a Benevento, you could do the same in Germany with Arminia Bielefeld, who also tumbled from the Bundesliga down to their third tier. Or if you just want something quite light, maybe starting out at a top flight club, you could try the Dutch leagues. There's only 2 tiers to the Dutch leagues in FM.
Yeah.
And if you wanted something with a bit of rigour, but it's not going to take you seasons on seasons, you're the more casual player, you could see if you could win an Eredivisie title at a club other than Ajax, Feyenoord and PSV. So you could go for a NAC Breda, a Willem II, a Fortuna Sittard. Or if you did want to go to the second tier, Rotterdam's third club, Excelsior, which would be a nice one to try and get promoted and then go for an Eredivisie title. I'm pretty sure Excelsior have actually won the Eredivisie in their history. So that could be a nice one to do as well.
Question, Llama.
Go for it.
If you do this, do you have to put on a fake Dutch accent a la Steve McLaren?
You don't put it on. It's as you land, it just
Require it, yeah.
like through osmosis.
Yeah, that's why I'm doing the Pentagon challenge. That's part of the reason I'm trying to do it, just to broaden all of my accents.
Can we name this the Steve McLaren challenge? Because he did it with FC
man.
just to go off piste. Have you seen him with the Jamaican national team? Like,
Yeah, so
come on, Steve.
I said about actually that first interview, man. I was just praying an accent came out, man. I was disappointed. Like listening to that, I was like, I'm fuming. I'm just waiting for the accent to turn on. Oh man,
He's got it though. There was a video that came out where he was like talking
now
to players.
he's getting the lingo now. Yeah, he's getting the lingo and the handshakes and stuff. He's getting there. My guy. It's my manager, I've got to back him.
You got to, man. You got to, right? Llama, anything else that's not accent based?
Yeah, I've got two more. Well, one that's really not accent based for a northerner like you, Tony. Just a nice English challenge, Preston North End, which I think would be really good. And the angle there, the story there, is that there is only one club who have won the English Football League before it was the Premier League that have yet to appear in the Premier League, and that club is Preston North End. So you'd start life in the Championship. I think their manager left in real life 2 games into the season. They have just had a player banned for, I think, 8 games for biting the neck of another player. So it's a club that's, in real life is going through some challenges.
Formerly managed by David Moyes, so sign as many Icelandic players as you can.
Absolutely. Former club of David Beckham as well, I do believe. And David won goal for England from 6 centimetres. Nugent was there. So that could be a nice little challenge. And then my final one that would just be, a nice bit of fun. I'd imagine there's going to be a lot of people who are disappointed about the delay of FM25 because that means an even longer wait for women's football. And, there was probably a lot of people who might have been purchasing the game for the first time because they are a follower of women's football rather than men, and they were really looking forward to taking charge of women's side. Well, you can't do that in FM24, but you could get close if you take charge of Clermont Foot, who are in Ligue 2 in France, if you're playing with an updated database. I think you'll find them in Ligue 1. I think they finished 18th last season and got relegated. And for those that don't know the story, they were the first professional club to appoint a female manager. So they appointed a Portuguese manager called Helena Costa, who had been a scout for Celtic, had managed the Qatar and Iran women's national team, and then was appointed Clermont manager. Unfortunately, then walked out on the club before actually taking charge of a game because the chairman was signing players that she'd not even heard of. And so walked out. But they then replaced her with another female manager, this time a French one, called Corinne Diacre. If that name's familiar, she was the manager of the French women's national team when England won the Euros, when it was hosted in England. And she actually did manage the team in professional games. So if you were eagerly anticipating women's football and you've got to wait that little bit longer, you could take Clermont past PSG to the Ligue 1 title at a club that is historic for being the first side to appoint a women's manager in the professional game.
I love that. I've managed Clermont Foot previously on FM, and I really, really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. And that just reminded me as well, actually, there's another Red Bull side. Paris FC.
They've been bought,
They're about to be bought and be a Red Bull side. So there's another one for you, Arron, for your Red Bull.
There's Red Bull and Red Star Paris now then.
Yeah.
If you want alternative Parisian teams.
No, they're all owned now. I love that.
No, Red Star. I don't think Red Star will sell up. Red Star are famously.
If you are looking for a great save for FM24, Red Star are it. They are.
I knew she sounded familiar. When you said Helena Costa, I was like, she's really good on Football Manager. I knew she sounded familiar. I've signed her as a coach in my Birmingham save. So on my current save on Twitch, she's one of my coaches. I knew it. You said the name.
Until until 2023, she was, I think, either a technical analyst or a scout at Watford. So she was, still involved in the game in the UK up until last year. But Red Star, of course, are also a great story. David Bellion, former Manchester United youngster, is their creative director, whatever a creative director at a football club is.
Does the website?
Yeah, I think he's involved in the branding and the fashion of the club. They're a left-wing club, like a anti-fascist, sort of a refugee inclusive club. They let refugees in for free at their games, or they did when they were in the French National. They're now in Ligue 2. So another Paris club pushing for the top flight.
Yeah, excellent. I do like the fact there's a lot of good stories in France as well.
Well, so
Good
Red Star are
teams,
great
isn't
because they are linked with the French resistance during the Second World War. They had one of their former players was captured, interrogated, and assassinated by the Nazi Party, and it still plays a big part of the club's culture. So, good story then.
I think the narrative that you're going to have, you have this one big PSG, foreign ownership, like a monolith now in French football, and like for a long time, Paris has been weird in that it only has one club compared to like London that has, I don't know, 10 clubs, right? Although London is a bit of an anomaly in that regard as well, that they have a lot. And it's weird that Paris is pretty much the same size as London. It just has the one. And Paris FC has gone up 2 tiers. I think they were a 3rd tier team as well. And the Red Star have gone up as well. So now you've got the idea that you might soon have 3 Parisian teams in the top division. If you play as Red Star Paris, it's like toppling the giants of these foreign-owned corporate Paris-owned the Paris teams, and like the size of the other teams, it'd be like a real David and Goliath story, or David and I don't know what's the French equivalent of Goliath. I could do it in Italian, but not in French.
Give it a go. It's the podcast
Goliath.
for accents.
David and Goliath.
I was just leaving you on your own with that side.
Yeah,
I was hoping you'd chuck one in there for me.
Yeah.
I'm on a call. I can't possibly join in.
Yeah.
Llama loves an accent. I know. He loves a pronunciation.
Okay, well, you know what? A lot of those are definitely speak to me, fellas. Any of those jumping out at you, Arron? Anything that's tickling your fancy there a bit?
I don't know. Like I said in the last episode, I'm still a little mentally checked out. I mean, I got my Birmingham save currently, and I'm not thinking about starting a new one or binning out. I'm well into it now. We just got promoted from the Championship to the Premier League, so obviously leaving now will be a silly. Starting a new save right now will be silly, but I've got this feeling if I
You've
do
done
win,
sillier.
Yeah, I was gonna say I do get the feeling if I do win the league and I'm struggling in the Champions League, that might just be like, might be time to start something new. But I don't know. I'm thinking. Sorry, I was gonna say I'm thinking of leaving. Obviously, doing it on purpose is not a good idea. But leaving FM24 on a failure story, like just not completing it and just moving on to FM25. I don't know why I've got...
Right, you can't take my stick. You can't take failure. That's not a thing, right? I've got that.
Just all these success stories, but it's just like... I think a failure story can equally be as fun. Like, we've been... like Serie C, we took a team to Serie C and got them to Serie A. All that hard work just to get relegated in the first season. But that sort of thing, like, kept me in it. It wasn't just the win-win-win story where, like, that's where I can get unmotivated and just... okay, let's start a new one. But with that Italian one, getting relegated is like, oh, no, FM, I'm not beating me this time. Nah. And it just made me play more. Yeah. But if I can end the series...
J3.
Well, I mean,
J3.
every time I come on here, it always seems like it's become like my goal in life now to suggest a save where Arron goes, yeah, that's it. You've got the one. Sounds to me like maybe Aaron's looking for a bit more of a challenge. FM24 has become a bit too easy. You want some really difficult saves.
How about we do attributeless, data-driven J3? Right.
Oh, no, yeah. I won't be
I can go harder than
that.
And you've got to put the game in Japanese characters. You've got to change the language on the game.
I remember trying this in Turkish. The only thing with that, obviously with the Musman skin, it will be very different, obviously. But I remember doing that with Turkish, And the only issue is like muscle memory. Like you kind of just remember where things are. So that's why I realized like I'm actually just clicking things without even reading it. But obviously, when it comes to that contract negotiations, that's when things could get a bit tricky. Because you have to use the currency as well. Right? You can't use British pounds. You have to use the currency as well. So that's where things could get a bit tricky.
It has been done on YouTube. That.
Is it?
There is a creator called Old Lady Plays, and granted, she did used to be an interpreter.
I remember this then.
The whole shtick to her journeywoman save was that whenever she moved to a new country, she had to put the game in that language and try and win the league, negotiating contracts in a foreign language.
Yeah, that's the.
I think she spoke maybe 4 or 5 different languages, but she was trying to challenge herself and go to nations where she didn't actually speak that language yet.
Yeah.
Si, anything that's ticking on your radar from what Llama's given?
Do you know? I've just been looking more into Red Star. Right, there's some wild stuff
Stuck
in
the
here.
loophole.
I know. I think I suggested it, but did Llama suggest it? I don't remember. But anyway, the star comes from Buffalo Bill. You know, the club is founded by Jules Rimet, famously Jules Rimet Trophy World Cup. They were one of the founding teams of Ligue 1 in the 1970s, but haven't been there since. They haven't been in the top flight for over 50 years. They've won the French Cup 5 times, but the last time was in 1942. And I'd love to know the story behind that, because if they are a resistance-linked team and they won the French, why is there not a movie about that? You know, the French resistance team winning the French Cup in 1942 in what would have been the German-occupied France. Like, that's got to be, or maybe that's Escape to Victory, I don't know. But, you know, there's got to be a story in there somewhere. You know, left-wing politics, so we've all been accused of being big lefties because we want women's football in the game, apparently, and social activists. But no, and then, like, a party atmosphere at the games. This sounds like, the club was purchased by a private investment firm. Yeah, forget it. We're out of here.
His face just, the whole energy just went
So close. It's tough, isn't it, picking a team, because you've got everything, and you go, oh yeah.
The fans demonstrated to the extent it postponed the delay of the season. The delay of the end of the matches in that season.
wow.
Yeah. I think, Joe, I liked IBV. That also sounds like something that I caught from Llama. Or
why
a beer,
I've been
I would guess.
accused of spreading it around.
A very strong 6% beer. I'll take the IBV, please. It's on the old hand-fashioned pump. And you get out a pint of Herman Hreiderson. So yes, Herman Hreiderson and David James, inject it into my veins.
Who is the coach, by the way?
I like it.
He's their current coach. Crazy.
Hreiderson is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he has been coach. I don't know if he is right now. He's been coach a few times, I think.
No, I think he's the IBV coach.
The Herman.
Herman.
Yeah. We used to call him the Herminator or the Fridge.
Wow. Is that a compliment?
Well, he was like he's like big Icelandic man, and, you know, but he's also like, was it the Iceman? Was it the Fridge or the Iceman? I don't know. I think he had all three, to be honest.
Sounds like you just shouted anything at him. God, that's his nickname. Whatever. Yeah, Kenny. Just call him Kenny.
Smudger.
Well, he was never afraid of chucking in a tackle.
Okay, cool. So right, Si's off to Iceland. Arron's off to Japan. Llama, just I'll load it up and you just click whoever I'm managing. Because whatever happens, right?
Well, so you said, Tony, you've got your Pentagon. You know, and can you do it by the time we get to March? Why we could make it more challenging for you if you wanted. Because FM24 has been out for a year now. And for a lot of people, they might have, you know, achieved great wins, underdog stories, and they might be looking for ways to try and make the game even more difficult, even more rigorous between now and FM25 coming out. So I've also come armed with my top 5 ways, or save styles, if you like, of making FM24 more challenging, more for your advanced user, which I think describes you aptly, doesn't it, Tony?
I've never been described as advanced in anything, but
Well, let's roll with it. Okay, so in 5, you could do a Pentagon challenge, which is incredibly difficult. But if you get your transfers right and you move to your right clubs, and people on YouTube have proven that it is possible. But I really like the idea of a double-headed Pentagon, where you've got to try and win each confederation's version of their Champions League and the World Cup with a nation from that confederation as well. So winning the African Champions League with Kaiser Chiefs, hey, okay, well done, and then you're on to the next confederation. But then also trying to take Madagascar and win the World Cup final, that is an added tier of challenge. In reality, it would probably be a Nigeria, a Ghana, an Ivory Coast, maybe an Egypt, perhaps. But I think that would be an incredible challenge as well. And then doing the same with a European and South American nation, fine. Maybe even guiding Mexico there. Then taking an Asian nation and winning the World Cup as well. It'd be a beautiful little challenge to run alongside your Pentagon if you really want to commit some time to it. So at the same time as you're trying to win the Copa Libertadores with Boca Juniors, you're also managing the Japanese national team, trying to win the World Cup with them. If you want a hard save, there is my one in 5th place.
Because you don't have to have them run at the same time, do you? Okay.
No.
And you're not going to get international management next year.
Make the most of it whilst it's there.
Why am I psycho? Llama's making lots of sense here.
Well, do you know there's a lot of nations out there, Tony, that are looking to appoint the highly decorated coach of Greece's under-21s from earlier in the FM24 game cycle. So you would be the number one choice, I would imagine.
Yeah, Job Bellingham fancies a trip to Madagascar.
Of course, I mean, he's checking his heritage now to see whether he's also eligible.
Steve Mandanda might be able.
Oh, yeah. Steve Mandanda. Get him on board. All right, what else could you make more difficult than Llama? Because, again, there is people who are absolute sadists, like myself, who will just be sitting going, but even that sounds too easy.
Yeah, so in 4, I would say if you've never done attributeless saves before, why not experiment with it now? You've got another 5-6 months till the game comes out. You've got great pioneers of attributeless skins out there that you can download. You could really get into your data analytics and using the data hub. You're not signing players because they've got pace of 17. Instead, you're signing players because they attempt 7 high-intensity sprints per 45 minutes. Arron's nodding along as someone that's done a little bit of attributeless himself. That if you want a little bit more rigor and you've never done attributeless before, I think now could be the perfect time.
Can you get top speeds of players? Like, I know you obviously don't get a 17, but like, can it be like this player achieved a top speed of 15 kilometers an hour in a match or whatever?
You can't get that in the game.
I don't think you can get that in FM.
It'd be pretty cool.
Well, in real life, they would obviously have that. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, it'd be pretty
that
cool.
That is how they would determine. They'd be like, yes, Kyle Walker reached this speed running.
So,
apparently, I guess it's the same in like John Madden, where they don't sort of go, oh yeah, this guy can bench press like 200 kilos or whatever. It's not.
So apparently that data is only available in real life over the last couple of seasons. Before clubs have gatekept or sort of tried to protect that data, so that Alex Ferguson didn't know what Theo Walcott's top speed would be. But apparently over the last couple of years, they've started collecting that data outside of the individual clubs themselves. So
can they just get it from the TV recordings? Like, surely, it requires a little bit of trigonometry, but
I don't know whether you can hold a speed gun up at your Panasonic TV. And
every stadium's now got a Gatso.
But if you took the footage and you like drew the line in the distance and the time it took to get between them, you'd get it, right? Like, it's not. It wouldn't be. You know how long the pitches are.
Yeah.
Is it? Surely it's not. I mean, you might not get a perfect, time. You'd get pretty close, I'd imagine.
But yeah, I think that data is out there now.
Yeah.
That sounds exciting on to.
Yeah, because that data's in broadcast now, so they show it in broadcast during the games.
But I'd imagine 10 years ago it wouldn't have been too hard. Maybe not live, but it would have been like. I guess seeing that data live is the difference, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, some mathematician's got to sit and work it out. And I suppose at some point it's quite difficult. You always go back to that '66 World Cup final goal, and it's like, is it over the line? Is it not over the line? analysing the camera angles and trying to recreate it and all sorts. And it's actually kind of hard with the footage to determine it, because it's all about perspective and the exact positioning of the camera and stuff, and the distance.
Okay, so while Si's busy recalibrating his mobile speed gun, what else have you got, Llama?
Okay,
if it's not that, then I don't know what you've got.
If we move into the top three that I consider to be the toughest saves out there, number 3, I think we're starting to get really tough, and that's the idea of doing a Legionnaire save. And for people that don't know what that is, it's where you put restrictions on your transfers so you can only sign people from a certain geographic location. So I did one at the start of FM24 where I could only sign players from a region in northern Sweden. And I just wanted to test myself to see whether I could take them from the Swedish 4th division to the very top and win the Allsvenskan. And I couldn't. It's incredibly difficult. Now, depending on which region you pick, it will kind of make this easier or harder. So you could take charge of, say, Crystal Palace and say, I'm only going to sign players from within the London area. Or
Bilbao.
Or, of course, you could do it from Bilbao. But Bilbao's got the added advantage of it's got incredibly good youth facilities to help generate those youngsters.
As do the other teams around. I think it's on the easier end of the scale of a region.
There is a club in Spain that uses the same style policy. They are called Olot, who are a Catalonian side who only sign Catalonians, except they are in tier 4 of the Spanish game. Sadly, their Catalan-only policy isn't coded into the game, I don't think.
I don't think they're in the game, but I think the policies are there if you add them.
Well, it's, again, like I made a video about them for FM23 when they were last playable, and there was a fabulous chap, Simon Thornley, who I mentioned earlier, who actually created a spreadsheet with all of the towns in Catalonia in that you can plug into a filter that you put into your player search or into your shortlist. So Legionnaire saves, I think, could be incredibly challenging. You know, so you fancy the idea of managing IBV, but it's not challenging enough. Well, only sign players from Westminster. Then there's your challenge. That one will be pretty difficult.
That's reminded me. I think such players in Kingston.
I'm letting it fly, Arron. I'm letting it fly. I'm not going straight back out. The Legionnaire is much easier when you know where those places are. You're right.
This will be Kingston upon Hull, then, will it?
Well, there was the. I think there are 12 teams with actual restrictions in the game, but I'm pretty sure Athletic Club is the only one which is also in the. I mean, you can do it yourself. You don't have to, but it actually stops you from signing them. It's kind of a nice restriction. And if you fiddle around with the pre-game editor, you can actually, switch it to a different team. But it's a little bit tricky. There are guides out there if you want to do it. And you want to make it so you can only sign players from... I think you can only do it per nation, though, can't you? Because the game doesn't... Other than Basque and maybe Catalan, the game doesn't tend to recognise regions.
Yeah.
Okay. There's no Yorkshire nationality in the database, unfortunately.
There is not. There is not.
Tony, did you try a Yorkshire Legionnaire once?
No, I thought about it. JM Thoughts did, and Michelino, I believe, created an actual Yorkshire database. So all of the clubs were from Yorkshire, and that was something that I think is available. I think he put it up on the Steam Workshop, possibly.
Absolutely, and Yorkshire's in that as a national team that you can manage.
Yeah, I think someone had mentioned it the last time we'd spoken about Michelino, so we'll try and work out how to spell it properly, and we'll put it in the description. Go on then, Llama. What's the gold standard? What's the hardest way to do the remainder of FM24?
Well, so numbers ever your strength. Number 2 in our countdown is one one that I've done, and I did it before I created content, and it was just the most abject, miserable failure I've ever had. And those that have watched my YouTube content, abject failure are my middle names. But we've spoken before when I've been on the pod about a Dafuge challenge, which is where you holiday for a season and take control of a club that's been promoted into the bottom playable league. And so I used to do that all the time when I used to play Football Manager in England's Tier 6. And that's a hard enough save on its own. But the hardcore do youth-only Dafuge challenges. So when Kingstonian are promoted in-game into the Vanarama South, they then only play players produced by the club's own youth intakes. And there's some pretty sketchy facilities at these clubs that are getting promoted into the game. It's an incredible challenge. If you're in it for the long haul, maybe if you're even thinking of taking FM24 beyond the launch of FM25, that could be one to really sink your teeth into.
Can you get players to put in your academy?
No. So I experimented with it starting in Tier 6 at Kettering, trying to use only youth players. And that was a YouTube series that had far fewer episodes in it than I was hoping it would have.
Can you loan players?
No. Not unless it's signing or loaning players that formally came through your own youth intakes that you've sold on.
Okay.
So if you do
I'd
produce a
loan
wonder
players,
kid and then sell them, you can bring them back.
I'll dread doing so much great work, promotion, and you get to the championship and now your board's like, hey, we're ambitious now. You have one off season, the guy's like, yep, you're sacked. And that, oh my God,
Hey,
that would be heartbreaking. Yeah,
If it can happen at Larissa, it can happen anywhere, can't it?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
I
that
think
would-
the first season's got to be the hardest of that, right? Like
you think?
Oh, yeah.
staying up in the first season
Yeah.
because the players it gives you, it probably only gives
I
you
don't
grayed
know.
out.
But then what
players,
happens when you
maybe.
get promoted then? Because you can't improve your team.
Put it this way, I had 17 seasons at Larissa and I never got one player that was decent enough to get in the first team. So
That's- yeah.
there's that. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Now I'm trying to think of saves where I've had an actual intake where that player's gone on to actually play in my team. That is I think it's very rare that happens. Well, to be fair, statistically it's rare. It happens in real life as well, obviously, but yeah.
But when
it's
they
almost
come
like this is why
through,
they're making the game hard, isn't it, Llama?
when they come through, Aaron, they're 15. So for you to use them in game, you'd need to play beyond sort of 3 or 4 seasons, wouldn't you? Rather
no,
than just win the league.
I've had saves. Like, I've definitely remember a Leon one where I've had a couple one. Because I remember posting this on Twitter as well. The Leon one felt like a cheat. It felt like, so this was like one of my first FM saves, and it felt like, FM, you're just giving me these great intakes just to keep me on your side. It genuinely felt like they were doing that. So I had like my first 2-3 seasons, I had some great intakes. And I remember people on Twitter, how did you do that? I was like, I don't know. The game's just giving me them. After that, that was it. That was it in FM for me. My youth intakes. Or you get that false hope, right? You get like, yeah, the great star, and you look at his profile, and you're like, he's high in this place, he's high in that place, but it's not the attributes that I actually want for that position. So it's very rare that I get that player that I actually like, and he's going to suit my team. And then, yeah, he gets into the team. And it's also very rare I last that long. So, yeah.
Fair. Okay, come on then. What's the final one? If that was number two, which I should have known, really.
So this is the final one. And it's not actually my save idea. It's one that I saw a streamer years and years ago trying to do. And I honestly think it's the most impossible save idea I've ever seen. So the idea is you take charge of a non-league club in England. So this is an England-specific save. And you've got to try and guide that non-league club as far up the pyramid as you can. The stipulation is you can only sign players if their last club was in non-league. So obviously when you're in Tier 6, you can sign players from Tier 6 and Tier 5. So getting into the Football League is relatively straightforward. But then you've got to see whether you can climb from League 2 to League 1 to the Championship, even to the Premier League, which I think is not possible. And you're only allowed to recruit players whose last games were played in non-league. This means that when you have your own youth intakes, you have to release them because they have not played in non-league. It also means that you might find the occasional gem from a Premier League club who's been out on loan in non-league and you're able to sign them. Apparently, people have managed to survive seasons in the Championship using this stipulation. I'm not aware of anybody that's ever made it to the Premier League, but they weren't the great Tony Jameson, so...
That one's got me thinking.
Isn't it
That
just
was-
what
Yeah,
absolute madness?
that one's got me thinking. That's madness, but it's got me thinking. Like, I mean, you're telling me no one's ever, and I'm thinking, don't say that.
So if you were to think about doing this challenge in real life, the kind of players that you could have, like if you'd have snapped up Ollie Watkins, Tyrone Mings, Chris Smalling,
I was just about to say Chris Smalling.
Jamie Vardy, of course.
He's having a party.
Ian Wright.
Ian Wright. So if you could get all of this talent in game at your club at the same time, and I think the trick is tie people down to 15-year contracts. So once you get a goodie, you don't sell them. And look out for players from the top clubs who are sending youngsters out to non-league on loan. But it's an almighty challenge, and I think that's probably as difficult a save idea as I've heard.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is really crazy. I'm sorry.
don't wanna
Even
start-
I'm sat going, no, not for me.
I don't want to start a new save, but that is really intriguing me. I might do a test, just a test offline of a couple seasons.
It could be our challenge, our FM show challenge.
I mean, that's a brutal challenge. Si. We were thinking bottom at Christmas as our.
They deserve it after the comments last week.
I don't. Yeah, but I think the comments last week weren't from regular viewers. And
Regulars,
listeners,
yeah.
I don't think. Could be wrong, of course, but I mean, yeah, for a community challenge, Llama, that sounds horrible, doesn't it? You surely have something nice like a bottom at Christmas would be lovely.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, with the festive season coming, bottom at Christmas is definitely the way to go. But if you have that rogue viewer or listener out there that is just really looking to test themselves and isn't so worried about trophies, I mean, if you follow that stipulation and you win the Football League trophy, as only the greatest of managers have during their managerial careers, that is going to feel like the World Cup, isn't it? You take your squad of non-league players and you win a trophy at Wembley. I mean, it's going to be fabulous. And, you know, the good point about that save is that the pain can be kicked, you know, right down the road. Because initially, when you're managing in Tier 5 and Tier 6, most of your signings are coming from the non-league game anyway. So
Yeah.
getting into the Football League is not the hard bit. Maybe even getting out of League 2 is, you know, not impossible. But it's trying to sustain a championship club when you're renewing your playing pool just from people whose last appearances were in non-league. Ooh.
Is there a filter, or do you just manually have to check every player?
Well, yeah, that's it. So you just go to their history and you check where their last appearances were. But, you know, the real frustration
could
could
English
be...
non-league.
got to be English non-league.
I can't go to the Championship and National now.
No, afraid not, because it's still the professional game, I guess, out there.
I can see Arron twitching. He's
Oh,
going to do this one, isn't he?
Yeah. That
I
one's
can
a
also
good
see
one.
the reflection in his
Aaron, there's
eyes.
a
I can
YouTube
see.
series.
FM25's
Trying Football
loaded.
Manager's hardest challenge. That you want a new YouTube? You're stuck on YouTube.
That's true.
That is it. You've got a series to run now. Trying Football Manager's hardest challenge
Oh my god.
Who's
yeah.
that for? Sorry, is that for
for Aaron. Well,
Oh,
any
yeah,
of you.
okay.
I mean, steal it. Go for it.
no, I'm
Is
not
that what
taking that,
Pentagon
no.
and is?
No.
I mean, it's a three episoder for you, Tony. I'm afraid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How much I've got
Sack
to
for
For
March.
Aaron, it might hold him through till March.
till March.
A save that holds you till March. Could you
Yeah, I'm
imagine?
tempted. I'll think about it. I'm gonna have a think about that one.
Could you imagine if he does it though, and he becomes the guy who does it? Like,
Look, he's Mr. England at the World Cup semi-final. Like he's got to show us.
Yeah, I've got to
the
prove to
mettle
England I
now.
can do it again.
Well, I, for one, look forward to that 1 million viewed YouTube video that I get a small amount of royalties for.
well, Llama, when Aaron leaves the podcast after that 1 million YouTube video, would you like to come back and keep us entertained with some more of your save ideas and FM thoughts?
Absolutely, yeah. I'll have to go and refresh my Rolodex, I think, and think of some new ones. But whenever you need some save ideas, you just whistle and I'll come running.
Fantastic. Well, mate, take the opportunity to plug all the places that we can find you and all the work that you're working on, because we do appreciate you coming in, and thank you so much for giving us loads of suggestions.
Right, you're very kind. So obviously YouTube, you'll find me on The Manager's Seat, and on Twitch, you'll find me Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays at noon. where I'm starting this week a brand new Twitch series, which again, hopefully I've injected a little bit of challenge into.
Is it a secret, or can we know?
Oh, yeah.
It's no secret at all. It's quite complicated. I'm doing a journeyman in England where I'm trying to win every trophy that an English club is eligible for, but I'm only managing sides who've never won a trophy in the past.
Okay, yeah.
So the biggest club that I can hope to take charge of is Brentford. But we'll be starting out.
Brains to think then who.
Well, of course. So I mean, your great Pompey, Football League winners and FA Cup winners, aren't they? So
Several times. One of only 2 teams to have won it back to back. One of only 6 teams since the Second World War to win back to back top division titles.
So we will not be managing there. However, Exeter City, you may find us at.
Excellent. I like the sound of that. I like it. Okay, so make sure you go and check Llama out on Twitch and go and follow the manager's seat as well. Llama, you were mentioning a little while ago that if people were looking to contribute to the manager's seat, if maybe there's anyone who makes videos or whatnot, then they can obviously get in touch with you to be part of that potential collaboration as well.
Absolutely. One of the things we're really big on at the manager's seat is trying to get guest creators on, maybe even if they're not the most experienced or they don't have the biggest of audiences, and giving them a little bit of platform and showcasing all of the talent that's out there, because it's not a question in Football Manager YouTube of the best creators always having the biggest following. There are some absolute gems that are out there, and if that is you, feel free to get in touch. And by the same token, if you'd like to get involved in the manager's seat in another way, perhaps through joining our Discord and chatting, or perhaps even helping us out with producing short form content, then we're always looking for new recruits.
Love it. And it's not national service either. It's genuine, lovely service. So, yeah, cool. Excellent. Well, yeah, make sure you do that. Drop Llama a shout there at the manager's seat. Arron, if people want to find out more from us and get some more stuff from us and more content, where can they do so?
They can find us at patreon.com/the FM Show Pod. That's patreon.com/the FM Show Pod. Whether it's support. I always got to mess up it up. You know what? This part was like, don't mess up dagging him down. Don't mess up dagging him down. That was in my head. You can support the channel from as little as £3, and on the Patreon website you'll find us doing some bonus content. A lot of content that you haven't seen is behind the curtains, so come and see what's behind those lovely glittery curtains.
Come and see what's behind our lovely glittery curtains. There you go. That's the way to end the show. Everyone, I hope you all had fun. Llama, thank you so much for coming down. I hope that's given you some ideas for some new saves that will see you through until FM25. Sai, Arron, Llama, thank you as always. Everyone, hope you enjoyed it. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you all very soon. Bye now.